What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over how you can find your perfect sensitivity in Fortnite. As always, if you guys do find this video helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below if you are going to be changing your settings or if you feel like you have found your perfect settings. So for starters, there is no perfect sensitivity, like one size fits all type sensitivity in Fortnite. There might be a sensitivity that feels great for you and that you play good with, that feels terrible to one of your friends, or vice versa. Your friend's sensitivity might be great for them, but feel terrible for you. So don't feel like pressured to feel like you have to use somebody else's sensitivity. That's one thing I want to stress. I've seen a lot of players in the Fortnite community who kind of put everything on settings and think if they just find these magic settings, they'll be good. Or if they just copy X player settings, they'll be as good as them. That isn't necessarily the case. Uh, but I kind of would recommend starting out by copying a streamer or content creator's settings, mainly just because they're probably in the ballpark of being like somewhat good. If you copy a pro player or a streamer's settings, they're probably not terrible settings, and it's going to be an easier starting off point for you than if you started at like the lowest possible sensitivity and adjusted until it felt good, or the highest possible sensitivity and then adjusted until it felt good. If you find a player who you like watching, who you think is good at the game, who has a similar play style to you, I think would be a big thing as well. That could be really good. And if you're a controller player, you're going to want to take into account whether or not they play Expo or linear, and whether or not you plan on playing Expo or linear. Because if you take an Expo player's settings and then play linear with them, might feel good, but it also might feel weird. And then the opposite is true, just because those settings change how your sensitivity feels. So I think starting off by copying someone's settings is a very good starting off point, but I don't think you should feel pressured to stick with these and feel like you have to stay at the exact settings they used because they're this player and they're very good. And then I also don't think you should have the mindset that you're automatically just going to be as good as them when you switch to these settings. It will take time to get used to. You're just using this as a starting off point and then adjusting kind of from there. If it feels too fast after you play for a little while, maybe turn it down. If it feels too slow, maybe turn it up, etc. And then you also may want to consider the platform the person uses. So if you're playing on like old gen console like PS4, you might want to look for a good PS4 player settings, because the different controllers kind of feel a bit differently, and the frame rate of the game will really change how your sensitivity feels. So like I play on PC with a PS5 controller on 240 FPS. My sensitivity while playing on PS5 will probably feel a bit different just because the PS5 gets up to 120 FPS. My PC gets 240. It won't be like night and day drastically different, but it probably would be a little different. Another thing I really want to stress is that you should be content with being uncomfortable. It takes time to like adjust to these settings. I kind of said this before, but if you go into it expecting it to just click right away, you're probably not going to be happy with any setting ever. Even something that will end up being ideal for you likely won't feel perfect the moment you switch to it. And I've seen people change their sensitivity or keybinds and then play one BR match, die off spawn, and then blame the new settings, be like, oh, these settings are terrible, and then change it kind of again to just something completely different, or change it back to what they had, and just repeat this process over and over again. And one fight or one game really is not a good sample size to base anything off of, unless it just feels absolutely terrible to you. If it feels just like incredibly fast, you have no control, then yeah, sure, maybe change it. Or if it feels incredibly slow, then maybe change it. But if it's just like kind of like a little bit off, like maybe you feel like, I don't know, 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 in terms of comfortability, then you're probably in the right kind of ballpark area, and then you need to just adjust from there. I think creative is a much better place to adjust and test new settings than like actual BR matches, because you can get in fights much faster with way less downtime and less penalty for losing, which is ideal if you want to just get in repetition, fight after fight after fight, and not only build that muscle memory, but also adjust it. I would give it like like when you change your sensitivity or your keybinds, keybinds are different. Let's say sensitivity. I would give it like 5 to 10 minutes in creative, and then see how you feel about it after that. And then kind of think, do I need to adjust this? Do I need it higher? Do I need it slower? How am I missing shots? Am I kind of over flicking too much? Am I under kind of adjusting? Things of that nature are what you want to keep in mind. But like I said, give it like 5 to 10 minutes in creative. And creative is just more ideal because as you can get in these fights faster, you'll build that muscle memory faster and learn how you need to adjust it much faster. Whereas BR, you kind of have the downtime in between games where you're loading into a new match, finding loot, maybe you find loot that isn't sufficient, and then now like 10 minutes is like not really progressing you towards the goal that you're trying to go for of kind of finding these new settings or finding this new sensitivity. I also think if you're playing creative, this might not be true for everyone, but you might not be as impacted by the outcome of the game. Like I kind of said earlier, I've seen players land in BR, play one situation out, lose, and then quickly give up on those new settings because they're losing matches and hurting their stats, or maybe they're just upset that they're losing matches, and that can really impact their adjustment to like these new settings. And if you're also not impacting your friends' time in creative, which I think is important, if you're playing squads and you're kind of just like throwing your teammates games because you're trying to adjust to a new sensitivity, that can be kind of irritating. Your friends may or may not care, but I do feel like if you want to kind of change your settings and get used to a new sensitivity, then like kind of doing it on your own terms in creative not only is going to be more efficient and faster, but you're not impacting any of your friends' time, which I think is also kind of just the more like proper way to do things. And like with this process, you are taking a few steps backwards to take even more forward. So keep that in mind. You might suck for a little bit, you might feel uncomfortable for a little bit, but there's probably a reason why you wanted to change these settings. And that's kind of something I didn't talk about that I probably should have at the start of the video. Like, why would you want to change settings? And that might just be like a multitude of reasons. Like if you're on the default settings, odds are they're not the best settings for you. Like they have their own shortcomings. I know that like kind of getting into the advanced settings can be stressful for some people. I will have my settings video linked down in the description below where I show my settings and kind of go over my settings and talk about what the different things do. But kind of it can be stressful and overwhelming for people. But like I said, you're taking a few steps backwards to take more forward in the long run. I don't know a single like very good player that plays on default settings. They're probably out there, but you know, I've played a lot of games over time and many different shooters in my life, and it's just really uncommon for the default settings to be ideal, especially if you're a controller player. Dead zones, like the default dead zones, are just not as good as like kind of adjusting it and getting it down to what allows you to make small adjustments faster. And that's the main thing that you're going to be able to improve with these settings. If it's keybinds, you know, you're hopefully going to be more efficient in how you do different actions. If it's controller, maybe you're taking your thumbs off the analog sticks less, and you're able to aim consistently while doing actions like jumping or swapping weapons. And if it's sensitivity, you just want to have more consistent control over your aim, hopefully have more consistent aim, and like I said, be able to make those like small adjustments to be able to hit shots at varying ranges, you know? And Fortnite is a shooter at the end of the day. Aim is very important. It's not the only thing that matters, but like the more shots you hit, the more easy it probably is going to be for you to eliminate the opponents, right? That's not rocket science at all. I also think now is a good time to potentially change some settings because the season is ending soon. I think March 8th is going to be the day of the new season, so this upcoming Friday. So you have a few days now where like if you suck for the final few days of Chapter 5 Season 1, does it really matter? And then also kind of like I touched on before, I think creative is a much more efficient way to play the game. And a lot of players are kind of getting burnt out on BR anyways and not really feeling that motivated to play. So if you are someone who's kind of felt like you wanted to change your settings, but you just kind of were waiting for the right time, I think now is the right time. And, you know, everything I talked about in this video is how I would do it if I wanted to change my settings. If I was brand new to the game, I would find a streamer, a content creator, pro player, whoever whose playstyle I liked that played on a similar input method to me on a similar platform if possible, copy that, and then play some creative and adjust from there. And within a day or two, I think you'll just kind of probably feeling better than default settings or what you had before if you weren't ever someone who like felt like very into and or very comfortable with your settings. But that is gonna be it for this video. Hope you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting. As always, if you did, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.